Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. I thought I'd take a few minutes today to read you guys an article or a story really that was authored by this gentleman here, J.G. Martinez D. He's the organic prepper. And I just happened to come across this story here while I was just dinging around on the internet. And it's pretty interesting. This gentleman here, I'm assuming that this is the person who is the organic prepper, uh, who went through some bad times in Venezuela, and he pretty much tells his story here. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. It's not that long, so I'm going to read it for you all. However, prior to that, I wanted to say thank you to all the new subscribers. If I will shout out every new subscriber that I can see this Sunday prior to the Q&A. And so thank you to all of you that have subscribed in the last few days. And remember that if your personal settings on your YouTube account is set to private, I won't be able to see you as a subscriber. You're still subscribed, I just won't be able to see you as one. So when I do my shout outs this Sunday, if I don't shout you out, it's because I can't see you as a subscriber on my screen, which is fine if you want to leave it like that. But I love shouting out subscribers. I love recognizing new subscribers. So that's why I let you guys know, okay? But some people rather not be seen, and that's okay. So, having said that, thanks again to all of the new subscribers. I truly appreciate your support, and I hope, most of all, that you find value in the content and the videos that are here, and also that you take the time to appreciate the community by sharing your comments, asking questions, providing feedback on anyone that has a question that may be new to prepping. If you are new to prepping, welcome. Very happy to have you. If you are not prepping, take a look at a few videos and listen to this story. If you listen to this story, you may want to start to prep. But like I said, for you new subscribers, take a look at some of my old videos, especially if you're new to prepping, and I think they'll be helpful, especially the payday preps. That way you can see that it doesn't take a lot of money to be prepped. Okay, so having said that, let me go ahead and start this story. So the title of the story is Things I Would Have Done Differently If I Knew What Was Coming. All right, so here we go. Having overcome a few personal incidents that rocked the boat these last few weeks, I wanted to write now about one of the most important experiences regarding the psychological aspect of prepping. Looking back as a Venezuelan prepper, there are things I would have done differently if I had fully known what was coming our way. Enduring what we have gone through, even after having a proper approach to prepping, sort of conventional in a sense, gen sets, which I'm assuming he means generator sets, water tanks, storage capacity, dry supplies for a few months, and other stuff. All of these are into the field of the conventional and regular prepping. Off-road vehicles, perhaps, or at least a vehicle in good enough shape to take a beating up to the retreat. Radios, some food production, and particular merchandisable skills. I lack a bit in the field of manual arts, like pottery or painting, but maybe it's just me. I can change a tire in record time, which is an art by itself, especially in Venezuela, where the roads are plagued with thugs. This is the stuff any person concerned about self-reliance should have covered. But next, we have to try to imagine what could be on the horizon that we have never considered. I'm not talking about prepping for every conceivable threat. This is just not possible or practical. What I want is that you imagine what your action course would be just in case your worst scenario, one so bad you cannot even imagine, takes place. For those who have not read my former articles, I used to have a regular life, pretty good according to our standards in Venezuela, a good and well-paying job, medical care insurance, school at 10 minutes on foot for the kiddo, a sushi restaurant next to a pizza delivery at 5 minutes on foot, and so on. What else could you ask for? It was all great until the apocalypse started. How to identify this threshold is not easy for me nowadays. The more I research, the more I realize this was a planned action and conceptualized a long time ago. My generation did not have a chance to prevent it. The plan was already rolling, and we were teenagers, unable to hold a gun. And if you all remember from previous videos that I've done on Venezuela, the Venezuelan government, for the safety of the citizens, of course, confiscated their guns back in 2012. The consequences would be foreseeable, for sure, for those who have lived through it already and had access to some information. Some people meeting up, perhaps some leftist candidate winning an election and slowly washing the face of the communists, the real bad guys, I mean. But definitely the most alarming warning sign was the food rationing. This was the cherry of the pie. They took over the country, people included. In a country where the food production was once at industry level, now is importing packaged food box by box for the leftist elite. If there is something left, then it goes to the inferior members. Real vulnerable people got nothing, and that is why they are dying. So did you hear what he said, ladies and gentlemen? I know I'm breaking in here, but he said that, pretty much what he said is that food was being imported, but the first people that got the food were the people at the top, the people at their government, okay? They started with the education system, trying to sell the populace sociopaths like Stalin and Lenin as heroes of their country, making attempts to the Marxist ideology look like the Holy Grail. They had permeated the national universities all over the country, by the way. Fight against the imperialism was their motto, whatever that was. Does that sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen of the United States of America? They had permeated the national universities all over the country, telling them to fight against imperialism. Many of the fanatics, when asked, they hesitated and mentioned the Anglo-Saxon Empire, the USA, etc. Never defined their borders, never could identify that enemy. That is not surprising, given the general level of education in the barrios, where most of the people used to live. Private schooling was very different. One of our most reputed schools is called Emil Friedman. Under this general scenario, and with that dangerous little island, an expert in exporting revolution and crime. Remember Mariel? Those fellow preppers in Miami centrally should. All of this was predicted by some people. The bad news were that those people had not a solid enough platform because they were politicians with very questionable honesty. The exceptions were not part of the mainstream media, which found in Uncle Hugo a great asset for selling their news. But enough with politics. I am about to puke. What is it like to realize everything has changed? Imagine you are a Venezuelan. You don't have a profitable job any longer, and you still have a family to support. There is no engine oil, and God forbids one of your tires should blow up. A belt for the engine costs several times your weekly salary. The parts factories have been overtaken by mixed mafia, military, law enforcement officers, dishonest civilians that won't sell at the regulated prices. This happened in Russia. I remember reading about it in a Reader's Digest. Hyperinflation begins. You don't have a place to go because the situation and daily living did not allow you to build a compound in a safe place that was large enough for being sustainable. The situation gets worse every day. Prices in electronic, paying via bank transfer, are much higher than in cash, but it is impossible to get cash. People are calling their day jobs to quit because they can't get there. And anyway, salaries are not enough to make a decent living, not even to be able to eat a couple of days. You are a professional with a wage or run a business that is quickly falling apart. You see on your way home families tearing up the garbage bags in the streets, looking for something barely edible. Every day your kid arrives home with the news about some other school partner had to leave the country with his family. The medical attention is almost impossible to get with a salary. Doctors, nurses, dentists, and other healthcare professionals have left. What do? You have to think outside the box to survive. If you keep thinking inside the box and for the things hope for the things will improve, good luck. Chances are that it is not going to happen that way. On the contrary, leaving out early will give you an edge over the rest of the people. If you are a prepper, there comes a point after your preps have been consumed and there is no way to keep living. In order to survive, you have to make choices. Informed, calculated, firm, but somehow flexible decisions. This is not going to be easy. You're not going to end gathered together around a bonfire singing Kumbaya and roasting hot dogs and marshmallows while the entire country falls apart in the cities. After the last hot dog has been eaten and there is no way to replenish supplies, that is when the bad weather starts. Without enough resources and proper mindset, like being ready to eat fish every day, for instance, if you have a river close enough, it is going to be 3 times that hard. So, ladies and gentlemen, reading this right here, he's pretty much saying that depending on how severe your crisis or the crisis that you're experiencing is, that no matter how many preps you have, eventually you're going to have to find a way to sustain yourself after your preps run out. I.e., I'm thinking mostly about like food here, okay? Food, fuel. So you have to plan ahead and think, okay, I might have 5 years worth of food, if you do, or 2 years worth of food, or 1 year's worth of food. What am I going to do after that? Okay? And these are things that we can talk about in the comments. What are you going to do after your food runs out? Well, hopefully, you're also prepping seeds, okay? And hopefully, you've prepped a chainsaw if there are trees or woods near you. And hopefully, you've prepped things like a wood stove or something like that. Depending on where you live, you may not need to prep a wood stove. But these are things that you want to think about so that you can be ready for life, following the end of your preps, okay? The Venezuelans lost the ability to hunt other things that stray animals in the cities or pigeons or our wildlife was predated so heavily for years of government negligence that it is impossible to think in putting meat in the table with a rifle, except for some very skilled persons in very secluded areas. And oh, by the way, did I mention that the rifles for hunting and the handguns were seized to those stupid enough to take them to the military for licensing in 2012? So I guess it wasn't a true confiscation where they went door to door, but I guess they developed some kind of a scheme where they told the people that they needed to take their firearms to the military to have them licensed, and the military just took them and never gave them back. So it says here they never got their guns back. They would have been useless anyways because there was no longer any ammunition available. Here is the most important part. You must try living with less. Get rid of everything you could. Get rid of everything you could not take with you in 1 or 2 big 3-ton trucks, or a couple of RVs perhaps. I'm not telling you to sell everything you have accumulated, but how are you going to take it if you have to move? Our species survived by its nomadic culture. That is something that comforts me the most these days. Cultivate personal relationships with valuable, genuine, honest, and straight people. There are things I wish I had done differently. I am in a dilemma, as I invested lots of hard earned money trying to diversify my income before the plan of the communists sped up. And all of my equipment is now there: benchtop drills, Dremel tools for finishing, electric sanders, and all kinds of tools, including my CNC. With just half of that stuff, I could have already started a small business here. If I had followed through with my plan of having a small, reliable, and dirt cheap maintenance car for daily driving and a diesel truck, we could have loaded the truck and migrated by land, perhaps with both cars and even my Berta, my beloved bike with her wonderful roaring 74 cubic inch engine. Changing the papers of the truck for personal use would have been easy, and then it would be much more practical than a car. We could have retrofitted the truck, making it livable for the road. With my equipment just renting an empty lot with water, sewer, and power access, we could have been set up for a fresh start, very different from those who are in the same moment shaking, freezing their backsides off in the streets of the big cities in the South of America, selling cakes, chocolates, and churros in the middle of the worst winter in years. We could have been together no matter what, and I would have been able to spend those 8 months seeing my kiddo growing like a weed. So there's another thing, ladies and gentlemen, that he could have taken with him that wasn't that big, and he could have probably traded it to, buy new tools to start a business, and that would have been probably gold. So, had he converted some of his wealth into gold or silver, he could have probably taken that with him a lot easier than trying to get a truck and make 2 or 3 trips trying to get all of his machinery. Now, I can't say that with certainty because wherever he ended up, maybe those tools or things would not have been available, but with having gold, he may have been able to have an easier time to access those tools than not having it. At least that's my opinion. From now forward, I will trim my life and build with my own hands whatever I could need, no matter if the results are a little bit out of the standards. I still have some tables made by my grandpa's hands, and even a small toy boat. And even a small toy boat he managed to put together for me. Now part of the family museum. They will be passed on to my kids, if the world survives long enough and they can have their own families, of course. Some additional thoughts. I have been saying that, albeit not being someone excessively religious, growing up in a Catholic country indeed allowed me to be free enough to choose the electric mixture I practice now. I pray to the Creator and ask for help and protection for my people. I like to light some incense for my ancestors. I like my place smelling nice too. I see the sky and try to connect with the universal energy whenever it can be. My spirit these days has been shaken by the news about young people from Venezuela committing suicide in their sorrow and desperation about the future. Please remember those young desperate souls in our prayers and help them to find a path to their final destination. Thanks, and God bless us all. The Organic Prepper. And it says here, share this. So this is just a short story, ladies and gentlemen, about someone that had no choice but to leave Venezuela in order for him and his family to survive, because he saw absolutely no hope in staying in Venezuela for himself or his children. So this right here story is, although it's short, it does provide with a few good lessons. Number one, I think the most important lesson is in this story in particular, because he was able to get out, is how are you going to transfer your wealth? All right, are you, if you have to go? Like personally, I'm not leaving. Things have to get extremely terrible, really, really bad, in order for me to leave where I'm at, because I think that where I'm at is a good place. I've got a good community here, good neighbors. I've got my preps here. If I have to leave, I can. I have a trailer where I can load up enough stuff where we can leave and we can survive for a while, even if it was in harsh conditions, harsh weather conditions. We could still survive for a pretty good while. All right, depending on where we end up. But this gentleman, had he stored some of his wealth, or had he preserved some of his wealth with precious metals, it would have been so easy for him to take his wealth with him instead of leaving behind all of his tools that he used to make a living. One of the other lessons that I think this shows is that you never know how long a situation like this is going to last. For example, in Venezuela, this has been going on for at least a good 4 or 5 years now, and it's continuously getting worse. All right, or continually getting worse. All right, and it doesn't seem like there's any hope in sight for these people that are there right now, that are still fighting to, I guess, try to be free to just live. Like he said, there was people there, that he saw every day pulling scraps out of garbage bags just to try to live. I mean, just to try to eat enough to survive. So, you know, so that's the other good lesson is, what are you going to do once your preps run out? Okay? Do you have seeds to plant? Have you planted anything? Have you ever tried to plant anything? Speaking for myself, I have tried to plant some things, and I planted tomatoes long time ago, and it's actually pretty easy. It's easier to plant tomato plants that you buy from the store, but you can start your own seeds inside and then bring in and transplant them outside. So have you at least tried planting stuff to see if it would grow in your soil? Have you tested your soil? You know, do you have things like fuel? Like, if your main fuel source for heating your home is natural gas, do you have a backup? What would you use to heat your home if the natural gas supply just shut off? Do you have a backup? Do you have propane? Do you have a propane stove that you can heat your home with? Do you have a wood stove, etc., etc.? It goes on and on. And that's one of the good lessons that I think this gentleman here described is, what are you going to do once your preps run out? Okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I think this was a worthwhile story reading. And if you guys want to read it, I'll go ahead and leave the link for this site on the description. And you guys can go ahead and take a look at it. But I pretty much read everything from the top to the bottom. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. I will be having a video put out on Saturday for the Twilight Zone, as we do every week. And then, of course, Sunday we will be doing Q&A. If anything comes up between now and then, I'll shoot a quick video. I may be able to shoot a quick video of some of the progress that I'm doing, with the deck tomorrow. We'll see how far along I get. It's pretty slow, but the progress is pretty steady. So I just picked up a whole bunch of wood today on my way home from work, and I'm hoping to, use all that wood up by this Saturday, and then go pick up another load of wood that I'm going to need. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for spending a little bit of your time here today. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you. Once again, thank you very much to all of the new subscribers, and thank you very much to all of the AP community members. All right, you guys are what makes this channel. Okay, so please keep being interactive with each other. Keep putting out questions. Keep providing solutions to people that need help, and that's what it's all about. We can help each other out, even though we've never really seen each other, or met with each other. We can still help each other out, from halfway around the world. We can all make a difference amongst ourselves. Okay, so many blessings to all of you and your families. This is Alaska Prepper, and I'm out.